Well, hi, Brent. It's great to see you again. We got the Ozzie and Brent show going again. It's now, what is it, our fifth week, and we are getting a lot of traction, a lot of comments. I seem to be getting peppered with email questions, which is a good thing. We want you to do that, but we want you to even more put it into the comment section right on the video, right?
Right. Well, good to see you, Ozzy. And I see that you're wearing your Vancouver Club golf club jacket as well here.
Well, I'm a member since 1993, so a real old guy. So I love golf, but Brent, it doesn't love me back. It's sort of a love affair that's one-sided, with me and golf. Anyways, never mind golf. We can talk today about the fact that October was actually a slightly better market sales-wise in the big markets of Toronto and Vancouver, and we can talk about what I consider to be the mortgage wars that are pending. I mean, real mortgage wars. And actually, here the mortgage holder for once is going to be in the driver's seat. And we're going to talk a little bit about CMHC saying housing starts are up 8%. So, hey, maybe things are looking better. What's it like on the ground?
Well, it's looking good. We're definitely there's been more sales in October, that's for sure. And that's a good sign to see. Realtors are happy. And of course, the people that have been selling their properties, a lot of them have been dropping the price to get more in line with the marketplace. And that helps too. When you're realistic about the price you're going to sell for, you're going to be more likely in that category. Like you always say, Ozzy, you don't want to be in that 80% of the market where it's not selling. You want to be in the 20% of the market where it is selling. And to do that, you've just got to get into the right price range, find out where that is.
Well, that's right. And I think that's why you need a professional realtor. I say it over and over again because the newbie is always scared. The owner says, I want $1 million. Well, but the last sale was at 800. Well, I want $1 million. So the new guy says, okay, I'll take it. The experienced realtor said, excuse me, sir, do you want me to sell your property or do you want me to dance with you and make you feel good? If you want to sell it, we got to get close to that price. It's like
Right.
it's what you need to do. And it's not that the experienced realtor is trying to do anything wrong. He gives you the best of his advice, being that, hey, it's tough out there, right? But
Well,
what I noticed, so Brent, is, and we were talking about that earlier, the single family home market seems to be a lot stronger than the condo market.
right, for sure. And going back to what you were saying earlier, my old mentor in real estate, Floyd Wickman, he said, I can, they're asking about price. And I said, well, I can lie to you now, and make you feel good. But, like, I mean, in the long run, if I level with you now, it might not make you feel so good, but at least you'll get your house sold. So you definitely want to be now with the housing market. Yes, it's definitely, homes with suites or good piece of land, because there's all sorts of
Yeah.
possibilities with the land coming up, as we've spoken about, Aussie. And, that's something we can talk about in the future as well. What can we do with the particular property? So the house, and a single family has always done better than condos
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we used to, we had sort of graphs, and it was almost like 4 to 1, 4 times better to buy a house in terms of price appreciation than condos. But then over time, it was almost even as sales in the condo market appreciated. But right now, look, in the long run, we still like to have a little yard, right? Even a small yard. That's why even a town, there was always a house and a townhouse, and then the condo was
Right.
appreciating. But now we add to that location. When I look at my mature grandchildren, they don't have a car. They don't want a house. They want to be downtown. They want to be where the action is. They want to go out for dinner and they just walk there or they take an Uber. My one of my grandsons said to me, Opa, I don't know why you have a car. You know how much the insurance is on it? Well, yeah, I know. You know how much gas is? Well, yeah, now I'm paying $2.10 a liter. It's ridiculous. Yeah, but he says I don't pay any for that, right? I don't, I get a very minimal cost. And if I need to have a big shopping day, I get a four-door Evo. I didn't even know they had four-door rentals, right? But he says, it's so much. So they're used to. They know the schedule of the SkyTrain. They know the schedule of the Sea Bus. They're going all over the
Okay.
place. But that means they're not going to move out to Raleigh or Surrey and buy a house. They're going to be
Right.
one downtown. They want a condo.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, even the hub around the SkyTrain in Surrey is much better, and the development that's coming out in Langley and
Yeah.
everywhere else. And that's what the government wants to see. Anything 800 meters to the to SkyTrains and bus routes and things like that. They're
Yeah.
more active because people do need that transportation. Gas prices
Yeah.
are so high, and vehicle costs are so high. Even though
Yeah.
so people want that
Yeah.
accessibility.
Well, and that's why, as people know, I'm a partner in a real estate company. I own 50% of Jurock Case Investment Realty together with Ralph Case. And all we do is sell condos, pre-sale condos. Not this last year. I'm drinking my own milk. I told people the high was in place, so we weren't selling anything. But we're closing on some deals that we sold in 2017. But the point was all TOD. That's how I've got my desk on TOD, transit-oriented developments. That's the
Yeah.
future, right? And that's why Wally, which wasn't really, sort of everybody's favorite place, you had a lot of negatives to say about Wally. Now it's become a hub because we got Surrey Center very clear, the new library, and all of these things going on. Primarily though, it's the transit that is important.
Well, you're right. And our friend Sharan Setti, he talked about, Wally. And I mean, he's making Wally popular again, as you and I know. And, with all the activity and with all the product that he's built over the years and made quite a few first-time buyers and investors quite wealthy in that respect, and he was building in ahead of other people. Now everybody has joined forces, not joined forces, but they've come into the area as well. You do have to be careful about overbuilding, but he's done very well in the community. And
Well, yeah, and he was brave. I mean, he was telling me a story. Again, it's Sharan Sethi, Sethi. I never know how to pronounce it properly, but he used to go door to door, collect the rent, and it was not easy to connect. I mean, out of there, he stomped really something, he called it historic Wally. He looked for the finer points. And what he builds is affordable, right? I mean, when I look at what we sold in 2016 and 2017 were $200,000 one bedrooms and $300,000 two bedrooms, right? Now it's the last ones were more expensive, but he was looking for the end buyer and was it a good use? And there's builders like that everywhere, but Brent, there are a lot of problems out there, particularly in Toronto in the pre-sale market where there's a
right,
lot of inexperienced developers. I mean, we talked about it before. One of the deals in Toronto called The One, it's the one with a $1,600,000,000 debt. That's the one, right? I mean, there are some real problems out there. So in all markets, it's costs are up, labor costs are up, construction costs are up, taxes are up. The government seems to have a gun aimed at the real estate investor with a flippers tax federally and a flippers tax locally and a USD and HST. You can't even keep track about all the taxes that we have, but it all is
like,
against the investor, and the investor says, hey, I'm not buying. And so there
right.
may be some developments that we can look at down the road that, hey, there were problems out there.
Well, and you're right. When you go out there and market yourself, it's kind of like Trudeau saying about, I'll be the most transparent government, and he's the least transparent. And, the one, as you're speaking about in Toronto, the one, oh my gosh, it is the one. It's the one that's in real trouble. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
so it's interesting when you market yourself in a certain way to begin with and find out that, oh my goodness, so there's definitely challenges.
Well, the interesting thing is, that we're looking at Trudeau, and I don't want to be political, but this really fries my bacon here. They spent $9 million to help us eat crickets. So there's a factory that he spends on developing cricket food. Really, this is something that we really needed. I was dying to figure out, how do I have a nice breakfast full of crickets? Really? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyways,
Maybe maybe you need to spread it on your toast or something.
yeah, well, that's what they have to find out for $9 million.
Yeah,
Anyways, but okay, I'm staying on the bright side.
yeah,
CMHC said they have an 8% increase in housing start. Now, remember, 2023 was an anemic year. It was a terrible
right.
year. And on the pre-sale side, I don't want to overdo it, but this summer we had an anemic summer. I think the plan was some 30-odd units developments were going to be in September coming to the market. 3 actually made it. So, the investor, as we sort of keep hinting, investor says, I can't make any return on my money. In fact, the government thinks I'm some sort of a bad person. So I said, I'm not going to buy it. And they go in other places. But one thing that's really good right now, and I was thinking about the other day, I made a speech yesterday. We had some 911 people looking for the link, which is kind of funny because I think just over 500 showed up. But the point is, I made the point that, we always talk about mortgages. Yes, 50% of the mortgages are resetting. So people that had a mortgage in 2020, their 5-year term is up. In 2022, maybe it's their 3-year term is up. And so you have, yes, these mortgages come due. But really, what are we talking about? When I look at on video that all these terrible things are going to befall us, there's two things here. One, the stress test actually is going to help. Even if I
Right.
took that 5-year term at 3% or 2.5%, I had to qualify at 5.25%, right? So, I mean,
Right.
it doesn't mean that I can't afford it. I mean, I had to qualify that I'm actually able to afford that. Then the other thing is Equifax says that we are below 1%. I think it's like 0.06% of
Right. Nice
defaults.
and low. Nice and
That
low.
makes us one of the best in the G7s. As far, we Canadians like to pay our mortgage. Never mind in Vancouver, apparently CMHC says 50% of our houses are mortgage free. West Van, even more than that, right? So, hey,
Right.
just a minute, start thinking about it. But then, and here is the goodie for the mortgage holder. When you're looking out right now, one thing the Trudeau government did do, we should give them credit, or maybe CMHC or the Bank of Canada, or together they said, you know what? When your mortgage comes due, you can take the debt and move it to another bank and you don't have to requalify. I
Love
must
it.
admit at the time I wrote about it, but I didn't think it was that big a deal. But it is a big deal because right now the market is overall, it's down in sales. The banks are fighting each other like cats and dogs and trying to get your mortgage money. But what mortgage would they really want? They want your mortgage. If you owe money to the bank right now and you made your payments, they really want you. And now they can get you away from the other bank. So mortgage wars are here, right?
Right.
The
Right.
banks, I'm sorry, but the banks also, what people don't realize is they don't mind losing money on giving you the mortgage because they get your checking accounts and your savings accounts and all of the other. That's what they're looking for. So there's like a lost leader. So haggle time.
Right on. Well, you're absolutely right. It's good. There's a lot of product out there. That flexibility, like you talked about at the beginning, well, is that important? It's really important. And people that don't have the same position, that are qualifying now are in a position where they don't have to requalify. That helps. And they can move their mortgage over. So they're not handy. What do you call it? They're not stuck to that one lender if they're not happy for some reason, or if they're getting incentive to go to the other bank. And that makes a big difference, Ozzie.
Well, yeah, and the crazy thing is, well, I said, what could I haggle for? Well, you could haggle for a rate, or you
Yep.
could haggle for no payment clause or no, but that's why, if your mortgage comes due in the next 6 months, go get a good mortgage broker. I mean, let's take a Kyle Green from Green Mortgage or Wayne Wayne
I know.
Dwyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
A very good mortgage guy, some qualified mortgage broker that can do that for you and say, okay, I got this mortgage. It's $600,000. It's a good guy. It's coming due. What can you offer him, right? Ask
Right.
the bank because I tell you what, it's going to be highly competitive. And for once, it's good for the mortgage holder.
Yeah, you're right. Dustin or Kyle, these guys are going out there and they're re-looking at. I was talking to Kyle the other day, also, Sean, we've been talking to these guys. They've got some really good opportunities and a good way of looking at it, especially if you have more than one mortgage. If you do have
Sure.
if you are an investor with, a couple of extra condos on the side or investment properties, there's some opportunity and tax advantages as well if you structure things properly, Ozzy.
Well, you might even, negotiate if there was a penalty or if you go from fixed to variable or whatever it is. The point is take a look and see what kind of a mortgage you'd like to have and what kind of terms, and then go for it. We always talk stink bits when we're in a pre-sale market or whatever, in a buyer's market. But hey, maybe a stink bit with your friendly bank, as long as if you just had your TV repossessed, well, no. We're talking about if you have a reasonable credit rating, and let's not all go nuts about the pending crisis. We seem to always look for another crisis and another crisis. Well,
Right.
yeah, it's tough, and it was tough, but rates are on the way down. Now, on December 11, the Bank of Canada is going to give us a rate again. Now, some people think it's going to be 0.5%. I don't think it will be. I think it'll probably be 0.25%. We don't know.
I think it's
And in the
right.
United States, it's coming on December the 18th, and I'm telling you, we're not going to see 0.5%. We may not even see a quarter in the United States because their inflation rate is actually going up. First time This year it's going up month over month, twice,
Right.
2 months in a row. So they have the opposite, they have very low unemployment, I mean, multi-year low, whereas we have rising unemployment. And so our economy is a little bit worse. So,
We did do better this month, and of course that's why I think you're right about no, we're not going to see a half point drop. We're going to see a quarter, I think, at the best. Because and we'll see a drop. I'm pretty certain of that. But the inflation went up a little bit here, so I see a 0.25% as well.
well, anyways, the interesting thing, what is not happening is in Toronto and Ontario, a lot of realtors saying, I'm done. We
Right.
keep hearing the trouble in here and trouble there. And, Toronto is our major city and our major real estate sales are done there. But hey, apparently some 45,000 realtors quit since the middle of 2023. Wow, in
How many?
Ontario.
How many?
45,000 realtors. It's a bigger
Well,
market. But on top of that, they're reporting now that Toronto saw an 8% drop in realtors also walking away. And that's the biggest drop since 1991, where in Toronto, realtors also leaving.
so Ozzie, in our marketplace, we've got about 5,200 in the Fraser Valley, and the Vancouver board's got more. But people often say to me, "Well, it'd be good to see the market slow down. That way, we can get rid of some of these realtors that aren't really full time." And I say, "Well, those aren't the realtors we have to worry about. We have to worry about those realtors in the middle. They're the mom and pops. They're doing 8 to 12, 15 deals a year. They're good realtors. They're active realtors. A realtor that's doing 1 or 2 deals a year and has another job on part time. But he sells Aunt Sally's place or Uncle, Perminder's place. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're losing those people that are in the middle, and they say, "Wow, I'm not doing the kind of business I was doing before," and we lose those kind of realtors, that's not good for our industry because these are real professionals. And obviously, Toronto is losing a lot of these people, that were good. They were in the top, 30% of the realtors, let's say.
Oh,
The ones.
but what you're telling me is that in Surrey and in the Fraser Valley, they're not leaving like in Toronto?
No, not like that. Not right now. And maybe that'll happen. I mean, we're re-educated every 2 years if we don't take our course. That's how a lot of people drop out. So you keep your license.
Well,
So
oh, well, yeah, well, but I mean, in favor, in defense of the government or the organization, it's needed. We need the re-education because, hey, just to
absolutely.
understand government taxes needs the education. I was just looking at the speculation tax, sort of
Right.
we forget about it. What the hell is a speculation tax? Well, essentially, it's like a vacant home tax, right?
Right.
But you're now a speculator. If I got the wrong house in the wrong area, because not all areas qualify. But quietly, it used to be 0.5% for a Canadian. That's gone now to 1%. Now, there's
Right.
just a speculation tax for the province. Because if you also have a vacant home tax in Vancouver, you have to pay up to 3% on that as well. So if you're a foreigner, though, the speculation tax went from 1% to 3%. Huh.
Right.
So I have a $5 million house, right? So I have a 3% speculation tax and a 3% vacant home tax in Vancouver, right? That's
Right.
that's big bucks. We're now looking at $300,000. And that's why, when I
Anyway.
talk, yeah, well, in my newsletter, I sort of jokingly say we're gonna have rent vest, like rent invest. So
Right.
rent your luxury house,
Right.
rent that $5 million house, maybe pay $6,000 for it. The owner will may give it to you for $5,000 because if he has to pay 300,000, and so he now
Right.
gets 60,000 from you and doesn't have to pay the 300,000. And you, on the other hand, you only pay the rent, you don't pay the taxes, the strata fees, and you live in a 5 million house. And then you take the money that you were going to pay down on that 5 million house and buy condos in Edmonton or in
Yeah.
in Florida, like we did a video on Florida where you can buy a brand new house for $240,000 and a house with a pool, and rents are comparable, or one-bedroom condos in Edmonton at 180,000 at rent for 1,800. That's an investment on a return. So that's why I'm saying the rent west, the rent invest, So
And you look at that price in Florida, like you're talking about, you've got all the people in Toronto, all the people in Montreal, in the East Coast, in the East Coast of the United States that want to go to a warmer climate, want to be in a better place, and it's still $240,000. What value is that? That's crazy.
yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's too bad we don't live closer to Florida.
Well, the
Our
thing is it just, when you take a look at all of the taxes, why the government thinks that you as an investor are going to invest money. And then if you do make some money and want to sell it after you bought it, the federal government takes, adds it as not a capital gain, it's income. So you make
right.
$100,000, it's income. So if you're in a 40% bracket, it costs you 40%. And then the BC government, it's 20% as of January 1st. So now it's 60%. I
Well,
mean, why on earth would I want to invest with you?
and could you imagine, because this is your principal, let's say this is not even an investment property that you can write off, so that $300,000 in taxes isn't even deductible, probably. Now I'm not an accountant, but I mean, maybe there's ways around that, but that's ridiculous kind of expenses that we have here. Now, you did talk about Hawaii. I saw your podcast, your YouTube video about Hawaii and affordable condos out there. So, I mean, we're closer to Hawaii, so there's opportunity out there too.
Well, all of Hawaii is not affordable. There are a lot of islands, and we were talking about Maui, and I used to years ago spend a lot of time in Maui. We used to have a restaurant, and after Labor Day, we closed down, and everybody went for a month to Maui. So we love it. There's
Nice.
heavenly Hana and the gorgeous beaches, but there's actually 3 islands in Maui. And then we had Lahaina had the big fire, right? So the real estate market has changed dramatically. There's a lot of product for sale. The realtor that I was talking to, Randolph, Antonio, great guy, but there are deals. And as one of the islands that they have, if you really wanted to have peace and quiet and not the remi-demi of some big hotel and nightclubs, you can buy condos under $100,000. Hey,
Yeah.
and they don't have sort of the big laws to govern what you can do with it. So there are places we're going to be talking about Texas, and there are places all over the United States. You say, look, there's the same laws, there's the same mortgages that I understand. There is a banking system I can trust, and so before I maybe go far afield in Mexico, other places, I should really take a good hard look at it. There's a lot of opportunities out there to do well.
And you're talking about like Hawaii, Florida, Scottsdale, all these kind of places. Good thing the Americans don't treat us like we treat.
Yeah, can you imagine? Every Canadian that has a condo in Palm Springs, and there's a lot of them. And we
Right.
were told now we need a UST and an HST and a GST and foreign buyers. I mean, you are some sort of a yokel. I mean, what people don't realize or forget that our commercial real estate is still free to foreigners as long as
Right.
they pay 25% speculation tax, or foreign buyers tax. There's tax everywhere. And I know people think I'm joking, but I'm not. If I was far left, I would say to the government, let's do away with all the taxes. I know Ozzie, you would say that. No, but do away with it. Build the darn thing and then tax the hell out of it. But at least then you have a building there. Right now, you're scaring me to death to invest. So I'm not building. So you don't have the building and you don't have the taxes. It doesn't make any sense.
Just scaring people from investing. And I mean, back in the old days, Kevin O'Leary said that will not invest in, and I think I've mentioned this before, I would not invest in Russia before all the wars and things like that, because they just changed the rules in the middle of the game. My gosh, if BC hasn't done that, and if the Canadian government hasn't done that, we've changed the rules. It scares investors, and that's why so many investors have moved their businesses and their assets to America. It's close by.
That's one thing we want is certainty, right? And of course, when we just did, as I mentioned, we just did the video, huge response to the video. And by the way, don't call me for it. This is just when I do a specific Zoom video, it's by invitation. So if you're an investor or a subscriber to my newsletter, you got to put in your email. That's all I ask. It's free, right? And so I tell everybody, I'm going to make a speech. If you want it, you ask me for a link, I give it to you, and that's what we did, right? So it's not, in general, these are not available. But
Very good.
the next OZBuzz newsletter is coming out on Monday. Today it's the 21st, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's coming out on Monday. So if you're not a subscriber, put your name into the ozbuzz.ca and you will get it. Now, you can see it anyways, but it'll be 10 days from now. If you want it right away, come to the newsletter site and get it.
Make sure you subscribe, because I mean, you're always sharing the numbers, you're sharing the information, and that's one of the things I always loved about you when I watched you on BCTV or Michael Campbell, Money Talk and things like that, is getting the information, what's going on locally in the real estate market, and I always appreciated you sharing that with us.
Well, thanks, Brent. So we have had another great discussion. Certainly, if any viewers have ideas on topics, put it into the comment section. And for those of you that keep writing me to my email, I'm happy to get them. I don't mind getting them. If you are very political, I did this video on the Revenge of the Little Man, where my argument was it wasn't a pro-Trump vote, it was an anti-Harris vote and an anti-crazy left-wing politics vote. The funny thing is that we have the problem in Canada too. It's, maybe, well, actually nobody likes Trudeau, but I mean, maybe it's not so much Trudeau, maybe it's just some of the policies. And when you go to Germany right now, they're called a snap election, and what are they? Crazy left-wing politics and huge debts. So in that speech I made, I compared Germany, Canada, and United States. And what do we have in common? We owe money like you wouldn't believe it. The United States is $6 trillion a year. They only take in 4.6 trillion. So Trump wants to cut back some of that. Well, he's got a big job cut out for them. Anyhow, enough. What we are saying, no politics.
One last thing, I don't know if you say nobody likes Trudeau. Well, they should today, because he's just saying no GST for the next 2 months, and he's giving $250. I guess he's trying to buy your vote, Ozzie.
Well, the interesting thing is, what is it good for? It's for diapers, children's clothing. This is what I really need. I mean, I need some relief on that, internet bills, I mean, pre-prepared meals. That's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for relief on GST on my houses, on my speculation tax, on anything. I was looking for that.
You won't get the $250 anyways, because you have to make less than 150,000 a year. So it's only to a certain few.
Well, it's funny though, but he's trying to, the big thing is the parliament is stalled in Ottawa. They're stalled because the government will not release what the opposition wants them to release, the details on all the stuff that the government is accused of. So in order to get that GST approved, which the NDP will support, the government has, so it'll be an interesting week to see out who's going to cave. But right now, the Quebec is not supporting the government, but the NDP will. Now, this is going longer than I thought, and it's more political. But I said yesterday, I do not believe that the NDP will leave the Liberals under any circumstances. The MPs don't get their pensions until until after the next election, this next October. So for them, they got to believe that they're going to win or win a lot of seats. And they're looking at the numbers, and they have the very similar that's now in the United States happened, is that the little man says, the hell with you, out, I'm going to vote my vote. And they're going right of center. They're going right of center in Germany. They're going to go right of center in Britain. They're hugely right of center in Hungary, and no more immigration at all. So you have all of these things going on. So the NDP is going to say, you know what? Here we all still have a job. I know it sounds terrible, but we still have a job till next year. And then we're going to get a lifetime pension. I mean, let's be honest, Brent, would you not then?
Well, Singh gets his pension in February, so he might change the mind in March. Who knows?
Oh, I did. See, yes, I thought I knew everything. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's a possibility, but not before. Anyways,
well, and the rest of them, like you say, the rest of them don't get it till the fall. So they'll support him for a while.
Well, that's a crazy world that we live in. But if they only would put us in charge, Brent, I mean, so much better. We have all the answers. Anyways, even if we do, thanks for watching.